Hello, and here we are. Another Wednesday live with me, Neil Millard, DevOps expert and contractor. The pros and cons, so you can make the right decision for you about whether you want to be an IT contractor or not. So one of the pros is flexibility. There's lots of flexibility around jobs now because of COVID. Thankfully, the one thing came out of it that was good. Working from home, less travel, more flexible working. But contractors have a flexibility above that. So sometimes I know that people in permanent roles, they have almost a desire to please the boss, as you could put it that way. And this might mean that you work extended hours. Not to say that you always want to do your best, but if you're doing like a 60-70 hour week, it can be difficult to switch off because you feel obligated to do it. Whereas with a contractor, you've got a defined contract that says, I'm available to you for this amount of time during the day. And I can be available more than that, but you'll have to pay more for that. And so because you've got that contract, it's a very clear definition of what they should expect from you and what you expect to give. So we can all deliver our best work, but within quite a specific expectation of what that time frame should be. So this means choosing your work hours, and you know that it's not going to really exceed those work hours. Also gives you the flexibility of being able to pick your clients, and by extension of that, being able to pick what projects you want to work on. Of course, you can also work remotely, which allows for a better work balance. And with contracting, you might be able to achieve a wider away, further away from where your base is for remote working. There's a slight disadvantage here, though, in that working remotely means you might get a lower day rate than if you were working on site. But compromises everywhere, right? However, with all this flexibility, there is a con to be had. The downside is that because you're working on a project by project basis, it means that when that project comes to an end, there isn't any natural follow-on work necessarily. Whereas if you're in a permanent employ, they expect you to do other stuff, maybe lower value work perhaps. And so in a contract, there's no guarantee of ongoing work, unless it's a long running project, in which case you'll be in that environment where you know that actually this is a 3 or 4 year project, and you might be renewing your contract on a 6-month or a 12-month basis. But the insecurity is still there for when that contract comes to an end, where you're going to go. You know, I'm sort of in that situation right now. I've got a bit of runway left on my current contract, but I know that when that contract comes to an end, it won't be renewed. You know, the renew is not on the table right now. And so I myself will start to get more anxious as that date arrives. So if you're looking for a professional IT contractor to help you out with your DevOps stuff, give me a call and we might be able to help each other out. So another pro of being an IT contractor is the pay is usually higher. Now, I mentioned this with remote working. The more remote you are, the lower the pay could be, because once you've said you're remote, you're then looking at your competition all around you, and everybody else who's remote can also do that job. So you've got a lot more competition. Whereas if you say you're willing to go into the office 1 or 2 days a week, and that office happens to be in central London, then that immediately cuts down the competition, which then of course reduces the supply. And if the demand is there and the supply is reduced, then the prices go up. That's elasticity of something or other I learned in business studies once. Let's go back a slide here. And so because you're also negotiating on a contract by contract basis, you also get the opportunity to negotiate about specific parts of the contract. So if they want somebody who is on site and has a specific skill, all of these are diminishing the supply that customer has in order to get a contractor in. So the more unique your skills are, the more you should stand out, and therefore the higher pay you can command. Of course, a big con of being a contractor is that you don't have an employer that's going to give you benefits in terms of paid time off. Of course, contractors do have holidays, but you can't bill a client whilst you're on holiday, because the client will expect you to do something whilst they're paying you. So if you're lying on a beach relaxing, i.e. not doing any work, then you can't really charge somebody for not doing any work. But that's not a big issue because you've got that higher rate, therefore you can build in holiday and leisure time into that mix. But they don't give you a preset plan of how many days off you should have. They don't give you a preset plan of what your retirement pension should look like. You don't get any health insurance. Now, as a contractor, you run a limited company. So your limited company can provide health insurance, can provide a retirement plan, and can provide a specific cycle of time paid off. But this comes back to the flexibility. Because it's your company, you have the choice of when those things should occur, what should happen. You are an employee of your own company, therefore you can decide what the salary is, what the retirement pension plan is, and how much time you should take off and how much time you should dedicate to working. So like I said, with the flexibility, because it's your own business, you have the responsibility of picking and managing what those benefits should be. And they can be complex and they can be expensive. But there are advisors around there that can help you with this stuff. So a pro of being an IT contractor is the variety of projects. I've been in the situation of being a permie employee, and often as a permie you'll sit there and you're doing the business as usual, the support, and your boss will then he'll go out to an external supplier and say, right, we want to install a new SharePoint cluster, and we don't have those skills in house, so we're going to go get a dedicated contractor in. And so this is the opposite of that. As a contractor, if you've got those skills and you like working in a specific technology, you can therefore look for those projects that you like working on and just work on those projects. If Docker is your thing, then you can focus on just the Docker project. If large language models is your thing, then you can focus on just those large language model projects. And if you want to branch out a little bit, there's other projects that you can go for that can then keep the variety in the work interesting. As an IT contractor, you have that choice, that flexibility. But we come down to the job stability thing again. Is a big thing for some people. I always feel that I'm more stable as a contractor because I know when the project is going to end. As an employee, you've just got 30 days notice. Similar. But as an IT contractor, those projects do come to an end. And in some cases, they can end before your contract actually ends. So it was a couple of years ago. I was working on a data transformation project, and the customer said, yes, we want this, and we want to do this, that, and the other. And then we got 2 months into the project, and I was on a 6-month contract. And the customer said, actually, no, we've changed our mind. We don't want to dedicate any more resources to this project anymore. We're cancelling it. And so that project then got terminated. And so there's then a line in my contract that then says, if the customer cancels their contract, then your contract can be cancelled as well. So you might find, oh yeah, I've got a 6-month contract, but the downside is, if that contract that you're working on, the next one up, the project gets canned, then you also get canned straight away. One of the advantages to the customer of using contractors is that if they change their mind, they can get rid of the contractors very quickly. This is a con to us as IT contractors because we can be terminated abruptly, and so you might find yourself in between contracts quite suddenly. Yeah, that's also scary when that happens. As a pro, though, working on different projects gives you a lot more exposure to different things, different people, different companies. Now, if you're a permie working with one company, then you might be quite insular after a while because you're just working with the same people. Whereas if you're working on a variety of projects every 6 months, then we as contractors, we hop about a bit and we make more friends, and we therefore find more opportunities. And these networking opportunities can then lead on to further contracts. And so that's a very nice thing to have if you can get into that social circle. I also know contractors that tend to be quite insular and don't want to do the networking, which means they're ignoring this great opportunity. The flexibility of an IT contractor gives you to move on to a different projects, but it's there if you want it. You have the choice. Again, it's all about flexibility and choice, and networking with other people and finding out what's going on, and mixing with different companies and different technologies is all part of the course. But whilst you might have that flexibility of being able to jump on different projects, it does mean that career advancement isn't going to be there necessarily. A customer wants you to work on a specific project and deliver milestones and outcomes from that project. They don't necessarily want you to invest in training whilst you're on the project. It's like, we want an expert. Let's use SharePoint again. Why not? We want an expert in SharePoint. We'll hire you because we like you as a contractor, and you go, oh, that's okay, I just need a refresher. I'm going to go on a 2-day course for SharePoint. And they're like, hang on, you're supposed to be delivering SharePoint, not going on a training for it. So it means that the companies will invest that training time into their employees rather than the expert contractors coming in. So as part of the flexibility that you have, you don't get training unless you pay for it yourself. So that means taking time off, non-billable time, as well as paying for the actual training. But you're paid more, so we can build that in, right? And one of the biggest benefits in this country of being a contractor is the tax benefits. Now, because you run your own company, you have access to the same rules and regulations that companies have about controlling their cash and their cash flow. And so as a permanent employee, you get your money after all the tax has been paid out of it. Whereas as a contractor, your company receives all of the monies, including some extra tax like VAT, and you can then decide what your company pays for, be it an office or travel expenses, and equipment purchases like laptops and phones. And then after those have been paid out, you can then decide how much the company pays you personally. And how much the company pays you personally might be based on not how much money you need, but on where those tax thresholds are, so that you're being efficient with how much money you're receiving versus how much tax you're paying to receive that money. And so by having the deductions for the equipment that you need to run your business happening at the business end, you're not paying income tax on those expenses, the company is. And when I say income tax, the company then gets charged on its profits, which is after the expenses. So it can sound a bit complicated, but once you've got a clear landscape of what it is, then you understand where those thresholds and targets are, and then you can set your personal income and what's paid for by the business appropriately. So that's a summary of the pros and cons of being an IT contractor. And you need to ask yourself, are you self-motivated? Are you able to manage those extra choices? Because whilst you've got a lot of flexibility, you also have a lot of responsibility, and you need to be able to make choices along the way. And that means being adaptable. And having a contract that's 6 months that can suddenly get terminated means you need to have a contingency plan as well. So that all needs managing. But if being independent is important to you, then that's a small price to pay. And you can embrace those uncertainties. It might give you opportunities that you would never think of ever existed. So if you think you're ready and you want to take the leap, there's one more step that we can help you with, and that's fill out this quiz, and it'll ask you some questions so that you know whether you're ready to leap now or whether you need to identify some of those gaps, and we can help you with those as well. Any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them. Put them in the comments below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can on those. I hope that's been informative, and I'll see you next time.